Heyo! It's episode 2 of Track Attack, and today we're looking at some Kirby. Now, can I be real with you for a minute? This game, I'm talking this Kirby looking game right here, well, it's real nice, and if you haven't played it, you need to do yourself a favor and grab an NES, pop in a copy of Kirby's Adventure, and go to town. Not only is this game fun as heck, but its soundtrack's just out of this world. Hirokazu Ando collaborated with Jun Ishikawa on this title, and they really put together some incredible tunes. In fact, the music they wrote for this game was so memorable that it's been remixed and remastered in a crapload of other Kirby games. Well, how about that? Ah yes. The name of the track we're scoping out in this episode is Cloud Tops, and it's absolutely pleasant. It so perfectly complements the gameplay experience that I could spend all day wandering around these beautifully designed levels. I mean, just look at them pixels. Look at them! But instead of going on a virtual tour of Dreamland, let's take a listen to the first phrase of this track to see if we can hear what's going on. The first thing you'll likely notice is that this piece is in 3/4, which gives it a sort of bouncy, floaty feel, perfect for a cloud-themed level. In addition to this is the way in which the first measure acts as an anacrusis. It gives the track a feeling of up before landing on the first real downbeat in the second measure. This too complements the whole floating around the clouds idea. Also, can you believe how much these guys were able to accomplish with just 3-voice polyphony? Shoot! The way in which Ando and Ishikawa wove these independent melodies together is simply mesmerizing, and it sets the tone for the rest of the piece in just the right way. You've got that cute little drip-drop sound in the upper voice, an active inner voice, and an equally active bass line. Although, it can kind of sound like the bass is implying 2 voices depending on how you listen to it. In any case, when it's all put together, it really sounds quite nice. Now, that contrapuntal stuff is great and all, but what about the chords? Well, if you haven't already noticed, most of the chords in this progression use extended harmony. That's right, y'all. I'm talking about those juicy major and minor ninth chords. They're like regular old triads, but with a couple of extra thirds slapped on top. With that in mind, let's take a listen to the first 4 chords. Now that's a creamy chord progression right there, but something we need to take note of is the descending bass line from F sharp to D sharp. We're going to see that bass motion again real soon, so keep it in mind. Following this first phrase is another one nearly identical to it, but instead of moving from a D sharp 9 back to an E sharp minor 9, it hops on over to a G sharp chord in preparation for the arrival of C sharp, the tonic of this cute little waltz. Check it! And with that, our ears are ready for the entrance of this tune's first melodic line. But before we get into the next section, I want to take a moment to talk about the structure of this piece. Up to this point, we've been discussing what I would call the introduction. After this, we can find a nice little A section, which is then of course followed by a B section. I'm talking about binary form, homies. The track then repeats these A and B sections ad infinitum until the player has either finished the level or cut the power to their Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a simple structure, and it works. But what's really neat is how this motif of the repeat is reflected in each of these sections by their use of phrasal repetition, as we've already seen in the introduction. Now that we have an understanding of the form, let's take a listen to the melody starting in measure 10. Well, if it isn't that descending bass motion from the introduction. Although the overlying chords are quite different from those found in the opening measures, it's cool to see how using something as simple as a descent in the bass line can give a track like this a really organic feel. Further tying this phrase together is the use of a melodic sequence in measures 10 through 13, and I think it sounds pretty nice. But what's really neat is how Ando and Ishikawa weren't afraid to think outside the box in regard to their harmonic progressions. I mean, what even is this? You've got a 1 chord moving to a flat 7, and that's okay, I guess. But then a flat 6 jumping down to a flat 3, followed by a minor 4 chord? What's going on here? Well, the answer lies within the relationship between our C-sharp major scale and this E major harmony over here. You see, E major is a chromatic mediant of C-sharp, meaning that its root is a third away from the tonic, and that it's been chromatically altered to form a major chord. And how does that explain these other guys? Well, just take a look at how they relate to E major. Starting in measure 12, you've got a 4-1-2-5-9 progression in the key of E. These chords serve to temporarily tonicize our E major triad, creating a little ecosystem in which this chromatic mediant can make itself at home. But instead of returning to the expected E major harmony in measure 16, it's been swapped out for a C sharp, thus solidifying the relationship between these two chords. And that's a half cadence over there, but whatevs. Afterward, we get the same stuff, but with a different ending. Ooh, it's so good! I'm really loving the Mixolydian flavor brought about by that G-sharp minor 7th chord in measure 23, making for a mellow minor 5 to major 1 progression. And by resolving to a dominant 7th chord instead of a clean C-sharp major triad, this phrase propels its listeners into the final section of the track. Well, that's a nice little change in orchestration and texture. But wait a minute, aren't these the same chords from the introduction? The answer is yes. Yes, they are. But now with 100% more walk down to the 1 chord. That's pretty hip right there. But what really gets me is the amount of detail Ando and Ishikawa injected into this little waltz. For example, just take a look at the articulations over in measure 33. They didn't have to vary the note lengths here, but they did, and it's little details like these which show just how much love was poured into the creation of soundtracks from this era. But much like the C-sharp 7 in measure 25 guided us from the A section to the B section, the C-sharp 7 in measure 33 propels the work into its final phrase. Something I really love about the Kirby franchise in general is how often the instrumentation changes throughout its tunes, and this piece is no exception. We've heard such changes when moving from the introduction to the A section, at the beginning of the B section, and now we're hearing another one in measure 34. This continual fluctuation of sounds makes the music fun and fresh, giving it a whimsical and almost childlike quality. But how does the track get us back to its A section? With a dominant 11th chord, of course. This is a great example of extended harmony, making use of the 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th above G sharp, while leaving out the 3rd, which we get over in measure 41. The placement of these chords is perfect, and allows for a smooth repeat of that sexy A section. Delicious! This track is really great and serves as an excellent reminder that sometimes music should just be fun. It doesn't always need to be complex, introspective, or serious. Instead, music can be an invitation for listeners to open up their imaginations and lose themselves in a different world. For that reason, I'm giving Cloud Tops a whopping 10 out of 10 Waddle Dees. But what do you think? If you'd like to go through the music yourself, you can find a link to my transcription in the description below. And as always, let me know in the comments if there's a video game tune that you'd like me to go over. I'm having a blast making these videos, but I'd love to know what you're interested in hearing about. And on that note, I'll see y'all in the next video. Track Attack, out!